Good morning, everyone. I welcome all of you on the YouTube channel of Government College Hadol. And today in this lecture, we will read about Robert Browning. In the following lectures, we are going to read a poem. The title of the poem is My Last Duchess, and this poem is written by Robert Browning. So here we are at the need to read about Robert Browning. Okay. So Robert Browning was born on 7th of May 1812, London. Okay, he was born in London, and London is the capital city of England, and he died on 12th of December 1889, Venice, which is a city located in Italy. Probably, I think it is in Italy. Yeah. So he was Robert Browning was son of a clerk who worked in Bank of England, and sometimes Robert Browning is also known as husband of Elizabeth Barrett Browning, because sometime in his life, in his initial period of writing, Robert Browning was not that much famous, but somewhere we come to know that Elizabeth Browning was a little famous. So for some books writer, Robert Browning was considered as husband of Elizabeth Barrett Browning, and his famous writing is ड्रामेटिक मोनोलॉग. ड्रामेटिक मोनोलॉग है, वो कविता लिखने का एक स्टाइल है, उसमें ये मास्टर थे. एंड देन ही वाज ए ग्रेट इंग्लिश विक्टोरियन पोइट. ये विक्टोरियन एज का पोइट था. ये विक्टोरियन एज में जिस दौरान विक्टोरिया का पीरियड था. सो लेट्स रीड अबाउट विक्टोरियन एज और विक्टोरियन लिटरेचर. Okay, so here we are going to read something about Victorian literature, that what were the special quality of Victorian literature, or who were the writers of Victorian as. So Victorian literature stands for English literature written during the reign of Queen Victoria. क्वीन विक्टोरिया के रीजन के दौरान जो लिटरेचर लिखा गया था, वो लिटरेचर विक्टोरियन लिटरेचर या विक्टोरियन एरा लिटरेचर के नाम से जाना जाता है. क्वीन विक्टोरिया रूल्ड बिटवीन 1837 टू 1901. इसने 1837 से लेकर 1901 के बीच में शासन किया. एंड दिस एरा वाज प्रेसिडेड बाय जॉर्जियन एरा, दैट वाज बिटवीन 1714 to 1837. And it was followed by Edwardian era, that is between 1901 to 1910. This period, to say, we can say that Victorian age, or to say the whole 19th century, is considered to be the golden age of English literature. इस एरा को इंग्लिश लिटरेचर के इतिहास में स्वर्णिम युग कहा जाता है. सो देखते हैं क्या चीज़ें इसमें महत्वपूर्ण थी. सो नोवेल बिकम लीडिंग जॉनरा इन इंग्लिश लिटरेचर. इससे पहले नोवेल इतना फेमस नहीं था, या फिर नोवेल जो है वो बस यहीं से शुरू हुआ है. इससे पिछली सदी में नोवेल की शुरुआत हुई. एंड विक्टोरियन एज में आते आते नोवेल बहुत ज़्यादा स्ट्रॉन्ग हो गया, या फिर बहुत सारे राइटर्स के द्वारा नोवेल्स लिखे गए. उसके बाद में क्या हुआ, द रोल ऑफ रिलीजन वाज श्रिंकिंग एज साइंस डेवलप्ड. धीरे धीरे इस एज में आते हुए साइंस के क्षेत्र में काफ़ी उन्नति हुई. एंड हियर द गॉड एंड द रिलीजन वाज द सब्जेक्ट ऑफ क्वेश्चनिंग. यहाँ भगवान और रिलीजन के ऊपर सवाल खड़े कर दिए गए, क्योंकि साइंस जो है वो हर चीज़ को साइंटिफिकली प्रूव कर रही थी उस समय. Okay, so the development of science and the research in the field of science bring us to a conclusion that this world and this universe is not created by God, and if there is no God, then what is the question of religion? जब भगवान ही नहीं है तो धर्म का सवाल तो होता ही नहीं है। तो बहुत सारे साइंटिफिक इन्वेंशंस हुए उसी दौरान। चार्ल्स डार्विन की कुछ किताबें, या फिर चार्ल्स डार्विन ने कुछ डेवलपमेंट मीन साइंस के क्षेत्र में डेवलप किए, जिनमें उसने लिखा कि सर्वाइवल ऑफ द फिटेस्ट, या फिर उसने लिखा कि डिसेंट ऑफ मैन, ओरिजिन ऑफ स्पेसीज। ये जो किताबें उसने लिखी, ये किताबें फैक्ट्स की बात करती थी। तो ये जो एज थी, ये एक डिलेमा की एज थी, जिसमें भगवान, रिलीजन और उसके विपरीत साइंस। तो लोग जो थे वो इस डिलेमा में थे कि हमें किस पे विश्वास करना चाहिए। ओके, एंड उसके बाद में तकनीकी के क्षेत्र में काफ़ी एडवांसमेंट हुए, इकोनॉमिक के क्षेत्र में काफ़ी एडवांसमेंट हुए। सो हियर आर सम पोइट्स ऑफ विक्टोरियन एज, among which is Robert Browning, Alfred Tennyson, Elizabeth Barrett Browning, who is wife of Robert Browning, G.M. Hopkins, S.S. Swinburne, and the early poetry of W. Yeats is considered as Victorian poetry also. And then I have said that there were some great novelists who practiced novel writing. Okay, so among which is Dickinson. Charles Dickinson, William Thackeray, Robert, George Eliot, Thomas Hardy, and Bronte sisters. In Bronte sisters, there were three sisters who are considered या फिर called Bronte sister, among which is Charlotte Bronte, Anne Bronte, Elizabeth Bronte. These were three sisters who practiced novel writing in the Victorian age. And here are some great dramatists of the age, among which is George Bernard Shaw and Oscar Wilde. Okay, so this was a little background to Victorian age, and now let's come back on the discussion of Robert Browning. Okay, so Robert Browning is noted for his mastery in dramatic monologue and the psychological portraiture of the characters in his poems. His most noted work was Ring and the Book, that was published in 1868, and this book, the Ring and the Book, is about a murder trial in 12 books. Okay, so in 1833, Brown anonymously published his first work, that is Pauline. The Pauline, which is subtitled A Fragment of a Confession, that was published in 1833. This work was his first publication, and in 1840 he published Sordello. Okay, which is considered as his failure also. And he also tried his hand at some dramas, but his plays were not that much famous, and finally he gave up playwriting, among which is Strafford, that was written or published या फिर performed in 1837. And after reading some poems of Elizabeth Barrett Browning that were published in 1844 under title of the poems, he started corresponding with Robert Barrett Browning, and in 1845 he met her. उससे 44 में उससे खत लिखना शुरू किया। उसकी कविता पढ़ के वो बहुत ज़्यादा प्रभावित हुआ और उसने उसको खत लिखना शुरू किया। एंड देन इन 1845 उसने रॉबर्ट बैरेट ब्राउनिंग से मुलाकात करी, और 1846 में उसके पिता की रजामंदी के विरुद्ध उन्होंने शादी कर ली, और पीसा एंड फ्लोरेंस में जाके ये सेट हो गए। ओके, और वहीं उसने बहुत सारी कविताएं लिखी, एंड In 1861, Elizabeth Barrett Browning was dead, and from Elizabeth Barrett Browning he got a son. I mean, they born a son whose name was Penn Browning. So after the death of Elizabeth Barrett Browning, Robert Browning and Penn Browning moved to London, and where he kept on his, I mean, he kept on his writing, and sorry, and in 1889 एसोलोंडो नाम से एक वर्क था, वो पब्लिश किया गया था, और जिस दिन ये पब्लिश हुआ था उसी दिन ये है रॉबर्ट ब्राउनिंग ख़त्म हो गया था. सो हियर आर सम वर्क्स रिटन बाय, हियर इज़ अ लिस्ट रिटन बाय, वर्क्स रिटन बाय रॉबर्ट ब्राउनिंग. His Pauline, that is his first publication, that was published in 1833 and is subtitled as A Fragment of a Confession. Paracelsus, that was published in 1835. Strafford, that was a play that was written in 1837. Sardello, that was published in 1840. Then there is Pipa Passes, that is also a play that was written or performed in 1841. Then he wrote a collection whose title is 1842, that is very famous collection, that is dramatic lyrics, in which he wrote our poem that we are going to deal with, that is My Last Duchess, and in which there are some other poems, which is Porfia's Lovers, Soliloquy on the Spanish Cloister, and then there is Christmas Eve and Easter Day, that was published in 1850. Man and Woman, that was published in 1855, which contain Evelyn Hough, Love Among the Ruins, Child Roland, To the Dark Tower Came, Fra Lippo Lippi, The Last Ride Together. And then in 1864 he wrote Dramatics Personae, which include Caliban upon Stables, Rabi Ben Ijra, Abt Vogler, Death in the Desert, and then there is a book, The Ring, and the book that was published between that was written between 1868 to 69. So this was a little background about Robert Browning, and in the following lecture we will discuss the poem, and before the poem we are going to read about a dramatic monologue, कि ड्रामेटिक मोनोलॉग क्या है और कहाँ से ये शुरू हुआ, कौन कौन लोग थे जिन्होंने इसके बारे में प्रैक्टिस किया था. सो आने वाले लेक्चर तक के लिए धन्यवाद.